Group number 4 is assignment number 1 of the management of organizational behavior. This assignment is read about chapters 1 through 3. We're going to be discussing the differences between a manager and a leader based on what the research says, and then discussing the motivational theories included in the chapters. All right. So we'll start with the difference between a manager and a leader.
All right. So I'm going to take point on this one, if that's all right. When we talk about management and leadership, I think it's important to understand that management and leadership are not these two like exclusive worlds, right? You're not a manager or a leader. Does that make sense? Like they're hierarchical in nature, right? So like it's like management and leadership. So for example, if you talk about management is the idea that you care about the fulfillment of organizational goals, right? And what does that mean, or what does that look like? Let's say we're talking about like a Taco Bell, right? I love Taco Bell; it's fantastic. But if you're a manager at Taco Bell, the thing that you care most about is making sure that the product is delivered to the customer appropriately, correctly, and in good time. Does that make sense? That the product is there. As long as that product is there, your job as a manager is being fulfilled. Leadership, right, is that you do care about meeting the goals of the organization. However, through leadership, you are trying to influence the group in such a way as to help achieve those goals, if that makes sense. So like a manager is saying, look, we got to get the tacos out. Leadership is building relationships with the people that you're working with, is by putting the company first and by encouraging and helping people or influencing people. And it's the thing is, it's not necessarily manipulation, because you're not doing it for personal ends, right? You're not manipulating people for personal gain. However, what you are trying to do is encourage people to buy into your management structure, if that makes sense. So just to kind of recap, we talk about management and leadership. Management, number 1, organizational goals. Leadership, or influencing people to effectively meet those organizational goals.
Well, there you go, David. You get an A+.
Yeah, I did the reading.
What I thought, as far as the manager, like you said, I think the control within the organization, like you said, and then like a leader, kind of like they want to make sure you're kind of like siding with them, but they tell you what to do. That's kind of like the short and sweet kind of version is what I got from looking at the reading.
Yeah, and when I think of manager, let me fix my earpieces, and a leader, I think of two different things. So I've worked with managers who they only dictate, say how and when they want things done, but on the other hand, they're failing to encourage and inspire their employees at the same time.
Right.
But on the other end of that, leaders lead by example because they're actively involved. So managers could have the potential of being a leader, but at times that doesn't always happen.
I think one word, and I think what my life's mission in working in schools and education is empowerment. If I could like sum up what I want to do more than anything in the world is empower, right? And when you look at empowerment, what we're talking about is we're giving teachers the energy and the want to and the care to go out and be great teachers, right? It's like, I believe every teacher, everybody who works in education has greatness inside them, right? It's just getting everything to align so that greatness can come out. Does that make sense? Yeah. And it's like when you look at leadership versus, strong traits of leadership, you have people who are excited by change, people who embrace change, who look at it as an opportunity for growth and improvement. Whereas managers want to, sort of work within their well-defined parameters and just kind of keep chugging along, if that makes sense. So for me, empowerment is totally key for leadership, because, when people feel empowered, the principal's not coming around doing classroom walkthroughs and you're like, oh my God, I don't have standard 2.38B on my board and I'm not, meeting his little like tick in the box, as is pretty common. Like a lot of times when people say, oh, there's going to be a walkthrough, the response is, why? I don't this, I don't that, this is terrible. Whereas, an opportunity for a walkthrough is say, heck yeah, come and see the fantastic things that I'm doing in my classroom. And I think that as a manager, you're looking to make sure that boxes are filled. As a leader, you're looking to give people opportunities to, what's the word? Give them opportunities to like the thing. Oh my God, the word, what is it? To express their passion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, when you were saying that, it made me think of like quantity over quality, almost. You know, like you said about the leader going into doing walkthroughs principle. You know, they may not be looking at if you have, you know, if your meeting is at, you know, they might say, oh well, the manager might say, I need to check off this box because that's what you're missing. But some people go in there and look at the quality of what you're teaching and how you're teaching it, and seeing if you're doing it to meet those standards. Is, you know what I mean? That's kind of what come to mind when you were talking about that. As far as the leadership, when I was reading, if you look at page 4 in the book, it was talking about the leadership defined, and what come up was the organizational goals. You know, leadership occurs whenever one person attempts to influence the behavior of another individual, but you know, the goals may or may not be congruent with that of the organization. That kind of caught my eye when I was, you know, reading that.
Yeah, let's see. And at the beginning of chapter 1, it said the essence of leadership is recognizing the need for action, motivating and inspiring others, and making things happen. So I took that as you're stepping in, doing what needs to be done, not telling someone else to do it. You're also motivating and inspiring others to do the same, or what it is that they desire. So like you said, David, you're in to get the job done. If anything, you're the initiator and you're seeking the help and assistance of others.
All right. Does anybody have anything else to add about leadership and manager, or leader and manager?
I mean, we could talk about motivation. I think that's one of the things you brought up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think education is inherently flawed when it comes to motivation, because, you know, when you look at if you look at like law, or you look at medicine, or you look at, you know, a lot of other professions, there's always room for growth professionally. You know, like if you go to law school, you know, you do your undergrad, you do grad school, then you know, clerk for somebody, and then you work at a law firm, and then you kind of work your way up. There's always another step. But with education, there is no step. There's like student teaching, and then there's like classroom teacher. And like once you hit classroom teacher, there's nowhere else to go. Or at least nowhere else to go that has a meaningful impact on your life. I know that sounds like terrible. Yeah, it sounds terrible. But, you know, people will say, oh, well, you should look for more leadership opportunities. And to the cynic, like the cynical teacher, they'll say, why? I'm not going to make any more. It's not going to make me a better, you know, it's not going to, it's all intrinsic, right?
Affect them.
Right. You know, so if I serve on like, you know, the school improvement team, well, it's not really going to change anything. It's not going to, I mean, it's more work essentially. Right. And why do more work for less money? Right. But I think one of the things we can do as a manager is provide recognition. You know, a lot of times in class, you have students who are disengaged. You have students who don't want to be there. You have students who are there because they have to be. And if you can provide some incentive and some motivation for them to be there, then they start producing more. And it could be something as simple as being noticed. You know, like there are some kids in the morning, if I say hello, they tend to have a better day in my class. If I don't, then they tend to act out a little, you know, and it's just, it's one of those things where as a, you know, people aren't in education for the money. Right. People are there because number one, they believe in helping kids. Number one, they believe in helping kids. And number two, you know, they generally believe in the work that they do and the people that they work with, you know, and the work environment is so much more important when it comes to education than if you look at something like a Fortune 500 company or, that's probably a bad example, but if you look at, like, let's say a construction company, right? The construction company only cares about, you know, the bottom line and the production getting done, right? If the work environment is something this or something that, it's not as important because people are still getting paid, they're still making money. Or like a hedge fund, right? A hedge fund company. right? As long as the work gets done, they don't care. But in education, you have to build those relationships with people to build investment in the school and build investment in the process. So when people are invested and they feel like they have a say and they're motivated, you get better results. I'm talking way too much. I'm going to turn it over.
Well, you're fine. But what I did, we were talking about Artifact 5E earlier, and one of my things that about doing in the school was providing incentives for those teachers, or even if we provide incentives for the upcoming teachers, like if they're student teaching, well, if you come teach in our county, you'll get such and such. And I know some counties do that now, or I know when I went to Duplin, they offered an incentive, but it's not that, for some of them it's not a good incentive, because like you said, it's not the money. If they really want, if they have a love for teaching, then they're going to do it, but it's not, money is not a factor in deciding if some people are going to teach or not. But that was what providing incentives for people, even if it's like our teachers or assistants in our schools, even if it's something little, like, okay, if you'll apply for this, maybe we can help you with books, because books are crazy expensive. But as far as motivation, they don't we don't offer a lot of that because of the budget and not having the funds.
Yeah, we do incentives to what we're at as well, but we go by our middle of the year to end of the year on how each teacher does. If that teacher is only one teacher per grade level, if they have the highest growth in their class from middle of the year to end of the year, they do get an incentive, but they have to be there the following year. That's the catch.
Oh.
And then the staff gets an incentive if our school meets growth, but the staff has to be there.
David, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, LaShonda froze. Okay.
Oh, wait, there she is.
Okay.
You froze a little bit.
I'm sorry.
So you're saying you do incentives.
Now, froze, Stacy.
Can you hear? Hello?
Okay, we can hear you.
Okay. So your school or your county does incentives for teachers if they've made growth from the middle of the year to the end of the year, but they have to be there.
That's our school.
Just y'all school.
And it was but our SIT team actually voted on that, because we had several teachers where they made it, but they weren't there the following year for the most part. So we kind of made that like a requirement in order for them to get that incentive.
I think that's really good, because a lot of times what teachers complain about is like, oh, well, you didn't make growth this year. And it's like, well, you're comparing last year's kids to this year's kids. How does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's also our plan for retaining teachers as well. That's part of it.
So what are the incentives?
Well, one of them, as I was, suppose we do read in 3D. So that's K3. So you take the teacher that had the highest number of students proficient, suppose you have a kindergarten teacher that her students made the most growth from middle of the year to end of the year. She gets her incentive at the end of the year. But as a school, we do a school-wide incentive as well. If the school meets growth, then we'll get that incentive the following year. But the catch to that is you have to be at that school the following year.
I'm saying, like, what is the incentive?
Oh, I'm sorry. A $100 gift card for the teachers, and I think it was like $5 for the whole staff, but after taxes and all that stuff. But yeah,
that's pretty cool.
So, but yeah, it is. But like I said, they put some stipulations in there as far as like retention, because we have had a lot of turnover since we've been there as well. So,
gotcha. All right. Anybody else need to add anything as far as motivation? So we can go on and talk about some of the theories. I found a lot of theories in chapter 3. The Hawthorne studies. Get there.
Okay.
I'm trying to find it.
Which chapter are we on now?
That is chapter 3.
Okay.
The
gotcha.
motivational theories.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And the first one that came up in the book was the Hawthorne studies. Elton Mayo was that person. All right. So that study was pretty much about how light in the work environment went along with productivity, how the effects of light, how if it decreases or increases the amount of work that they do. Elton Mayo, he did a study. He had some test groups, and the first group he was talking that he increased the lighting, and so the output of what the group did went up, which you might think that okay, well it may do that. So then there was another group, he decreased the light to the level of the moonlight, and the output still increased even further. So at that point they were talking how could that be? And then finally at the end, this was in like the I believe 1927s, 28s, somewhere in there.
Yeah, 1927.
Is that right? But that he concluded, or the researchers concluded, that something else other than the light was affecting productivity from the workers. Have y'all ever noticed that sometimes when, like, a lot of times if the air is on, or, I know this is talking about light, but if you're thinking of the air conditioner, if it's too cold or if it's too hot, some things you can do or you can't do. Like, if you're too cold, you may not work as good, or if you're too hot, you may not work as good. Or you may not.
That's me, especially if I'm cold.
Right. Yeah, it kind of puts you to sleep almost. But that's kind of what I was thinking. I know it's not with light, but like if the lights I'm surprised at when they decreased the light of, and when it went to the level of the moonlight, that the output actually increased even further than when the light, of the earlier study. So that, because I know for me, I don't think I would perform as well in a dark setting than if it's fully powered.
Yeah, and what I'll say is, like, I have my classroom light on for majority of the day. Okay, lights on all day. We're working busy. But at the end of the day, a lot of times I'll turn my light off and I can actually get something done. I'm fine. It doesn't put me to sleep or anything. Right. I'm just as focused as I can be, as if the light was bright as day. So I think it depends on the mood,
Yeah. And if you have the motivation to get it done, or if it's something that you
there you go. You're right.
Yeah, I think when it comes to things like that, I think space is a bigger thing for me, because like I have a fairly small room, and like 32 in my biggest class, 31, 32 in my biggest class, and it gets tight, and it's difficult to incorporate those activities where we're up and we're moving and we're doing this and that when we're packed in, like sort of sardines in a can, so to speak.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I got a small classroom too, but I don't have 31 or 32 kids at one time. So that's a good thing. All right.
Please.
All right. And then the next theory, you might have anything else to add with that theory?
No, I thought theory X and theory Y were interesting.
I did too. About the human nature.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so it said managers who accept theory X assumptions attempt to structure, control, and closely supervise their employees. External control is clearly appropriate for dealing with unreliable and irresponsible people. And I was looking at table 3.1.
Yeah.
All right, so theory X. Yeah. So theory X and Y by Douglas McGregor. So theory X, the individual has no desire for responsibility in solving problems, no creativity, and oftentimes coerced to accomplish or do anything. As to theory Y, the work is normal. They have self-control. They're motivated. They're self-directed, and they can be creative if they're motivated. So
it's like, what kind of leader do you want? A theory X person or a theory Y person? Or what kind of leader do you want to be?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I said. I'm like, that's why I found it interesting.
Yeah.
Work is natural as play. So I guess work, you just work. You don't put any thought into it. You do what you're supposed to, if the conditions are favorable.
Yeah.
And what else did I put up there?
I would say we kind of want to be theory Y almost, but maybe in certain circumstances we might be theory X.
See, and this is where I would conjecture that this whole notion of theory X and theory Y being like two separate things. Like, I don't think that at all. I think that we can all be theory X or theory Y based on the leadership in the building. A lot of times if you have someone who has not had, or let's say someone fresh out of college, right? These are a lot of your theory Y persons. They're like motivated, they're self-directed, they're go-getters, whatever. And then they sort of run the gauntlet of education where they're like, yeah, I want to do my part for the school. So everybody who's been there just throws all the stuff they don't want to do on them. And because there's no external reward for it, they sort of slowly become theory X people, Like, I think that you have to look at the leadership culture at a school when determining if people are theory X and theory Y. Because like, there are some people, it's like the saying, you can lead a horse to water. Like, you can try to motivate and empower people. Some people are just going to be like miserable, right? There's nothing you can do. Right? They're going to be downers, right? They're going to be upset. They're always going to have a problem. And that's fine. However, it's your job as a leader to recognize that and then try to motivate the people you can. And I believe like through motivate, because like I know for me, if I used to work at like a lawn care company back when I was in college, and if my boss was talking to everybody on the truck and he's like, all right guys, we're gonna knock this out, we're gonna do a certain amount of time, let's go. Like, I would work a lot harder than if he was like, all right, just shut up and do your job. Just don't make me get off the mower. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you got the sense that he actually cared about the work that you were putting in.
Right. And that's where I feel like, it keeps coming back to empowerment,
That communication was there.
All right. Anybody else about theory X and theory Y? I think we covered that one pretty good.
Yeah. All
right. The next one that did y'all find about the work groups?
Which one? The immaturity.
That one was
which one?
Increase. That was under
you're talking about the work group.
Yeah, that would George Homans. We got about a little less than 10 minutes left.
Okay.
I really like the figure 3.1 on page 47 of the book. How the activities, the interactions, and the sentiments, they kind of all connect together. One affects the other. Because you have the activity that, the task that people perform. The interaction is talking about the behaviors between the people performing the task. And, our interactions change with the task that we are given. And then the attitudes and our feelings that develop between the individual and within the group change based on our interactions and based on on the activity. So I really thought that was
almost like a team building.
Right. I really thought that was a good picture or, thing to kind of show to how they connect with each other.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like a team building activity.
Yeah.
Especially like if we go to a team meeting and they put our names on the table so we don't sit within our same grade level, then they'll have some kind of activity for us because we don't get a chance to see every teacher every day. So at the beginning of our team meetings, they'll sit us at different tables. And like you said, the diagram, it goes hand in hand as to what we do.
Yep.
At those meetings.
Yeah, we do those too. All right. And if I'm going to kind of go ahead to the next one if nobody else has anything left on that one since we're kind of running short on time. Let's see. The next one was the maturity and immaturity, correct? Yeah. And I can, Chris is his first name. I don't know about that last name.
You said Chris. We'll go with Chris.
Chris A. We'll do Chris A. All right.
Oh, where's my paper for that? Oh, there it is. So I like how with Chris A, how it compared how we are as when we're babies or younger. So basically that's immaturity, and to what we do when we become adults, the maturity. Like, of course, when we're babies, we're young. Okay, we overlook a lot of stuff, but we become more active as adults. When we're young, we depend on our parents or someone to take care of us. But as we're older, we develop that independence. Our behaviors also increase as we become adults. And, a child, all right, when is it time for lunch? When we say 1 hour, they think we said 1 minute.
Yep.
But our perception of time increases. And when we're younger, before we enter adulthood, we're subordinate. But as we enter adulthood, we become superior. So I really took note of that.
Well, what I had wrote down for this one about how it can be mistrust or intergroup conflict. I'm thinking, I'm trying to find exactly where I found that at. Without interpersonal competency or like a safe environment, the organization, may develop like the mistrust or intergroup conflict and so on, which leads to a decrease in organizational success and problem solving. But it's sometimes, even as adults, we like some things can be more of an immature than mature. I think I saw that. But I like the table 3-2 at the bottom of page 48 where it had the immaturity going to maturity and the passive to active, dependent, independent, things like that. It kind of caught my eye because as far as the stages that we go through as students and teachers and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We got about 4 minutes left, and we on the last one. Okay, the motivational hygiene theory for Frederick Heisenberg. I'm going to go with that. Let's see.
Was that the one? Was it Herzberg and Herzberg and when it was comparing the two? Or well, that was last when they compared the two.
Let's see. That was the Heisenberg and Maslow theory was the one they connected together at the end.
Yeah.
But as far as the Friedrich Heisenberg motivation hygiene theory, he had looking at table 3.3, the motivators, the job itself, and had achievement, recognition for accomplishments. Those were some things that motivate us. But the hygiene factors, policy and administration, kind of the supervision, the working conditions, interpersonal relationships, the money, the security, more of the things maybe we can't control almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the motivators are things that we can control. And we might get more satisfaction out of the motivators than out of the hygiene.
Mm-hmm. Basically determines the behavior of the individual.
Because I wrote down they were talking about the hygiene, maybe no increase in employee productivity, and then the motivators would be like the positive effects on job satisfaction.
Yeah. And when I saw those two, I thought about the teacher working condition survey.
I did too.
Because you think about it. You have your supervision, your working conditions, interpersonal relations. Well, I guess that's what I said.
Yeah.
And you take your motivators, feeling of achievement. Well, is it that they're not being, what's the word I'm looking for, recognized for their achievement? Are they not having any growth? Is that why the hygiene may not be as good? I mean, that was just a thought. That's what came to my mind when I saw the motivation hygiene theory.
Yeah. If you look at page 54, that chart that's up there, that's what caught my eye going toward the end. It listed like the theories, and then it was talking about some of them, like Heisenberg's, the motivators, the achievement, the challenging of work, increased responsibilities, and then the policies were like it broke it down a little bit better for me. About what each theory kind of entailed.
Mm-hmm. So when it compared the two, Maslow's bottom line are the needs, but Herzberg's insights into goals and incentives that will satisfy those needs.
Yep. And it seems like as teachers, we want those motivators.
Yes.
Because, we don't have the control over the hygienes.
Right.
As far as that theory. All right. Does anybody have anything else? We got less than a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's good.
I think we did good too.
Yep, I think we summed it all up.
All right. Well, I will send this out to you later tonight.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all. We all have a good weekend.
All right. You do the same. All right. Bye-bye.